We're going live for Read Aloud, Chapter 10. Hero Dog. It goes ahead of time. Watch. Hero, Chapter 10. I believe Abby read Chapter 9. So, here we are. Ben, Hero, and Scout headed out to the parking lot. It had taken Hero and Ben a while to coax Scout out from under the pallets, but the puppy had finally calmed down. Ben looped Hero's leash around the bike rack while he unclipped Scout's leash. He started to tuck Scout into the carrier strapped to the back of his bike. Just then, the engine of a police cruiser started up a few feet away. The car pulled out onto the street, and the sound of its siren cut through the air like an explosion. Can you make a police car siren sound?
Yeah.
Go. Yeah. The car pulled out into the street, and the sound of its siren was like an explosion. Ben's eardrums vibrated. Hero didn't even flinch. He sat calmly next to Ben, but Scout's whole body stiffened. Before Ben had time to react, the puppy had jumped out of the carrier, landed on the asphalt, and taken off. Scout moved so fast across the parking lot and toward the road that he was a blur. Hero, who was held back by his leash, barked frantically after Scout. "Scout, stop!" Ben yelled. "Scout, stay!"
Stay!
In the blink of an eye, Scout turned onto the sidewalk outside the station and was gone. Oh, this is going to be when he comes up missing, isn't it? Uh-oh. "Hero, go!" Ben cried out, unclipping Hero's leash from his harness. "You're going to have to figure out where he went, okay?" he said. "Hero, find Scout." Hero skimmed his nose across the sidewalk, his head moving rapidly back and forth as he followed Scout's scent. He looked up for a second, turned back to Ben, then took off running down the street. Ben pedaled as fast as he could to keep up. Hero was in full tracking mode. His body moved in a perfect, beautiful stride, like an elegant machine. Ben wasn't familiar with the area around the police station. Hero zigzagged through the neighborhood and led Ben to the beachside road that ran for miles along the Gulf of Mexico. Ben hardly noticed the endless stretch of white sand beaches. Hero and Ben turned inland and headed down the quiet residential streets, where porches wrapped around old mansions, and quite a few houses had tall columns out front. They skirted the airport and trudged along the sludgy banks of a bayou. Soon they were miles away. Ben began to doubt Hero. Surely Scout couldn't have run this far. Finally, as the sky was turning dim to a dull gray, Hero slowed his pace. They were on the outskirts of town in a neighborhood Ben had never been to before. It was a desolate stretch, not quite residential, not quite rural. There were big patches of land between the houses, some with overgrown grass and tall weeds. No one was out walking. There were no kids playing in front yards. It was quiet and isolated.
Like?
Quiet.
Quiet.
Ben couldn't picture sweet, innocent Scout in a creepy neighborhood like this. It made him feel queasy just thinking about it. They turned a corner and Hero started barking and picking up speed again. He bolted toward the last house on the block, sat down in the driveway, and waited for Ben to catch up. Huffing and puffing, Ben pulled up next to Hero and gave the dog a treat. He caught his breath and looked over the house. It was newish and simple, nothing fancy. One story, red brick with a driveway running up the side. When Ben saw what was parked in the driveway, oh goodness, look what's parked in the driveway. A weird feeling washed over him. It was the black SUV. A black SUV, but I'm sure the black. We haven't heard about that SUV since like chapter 4. For a split second, Ben couldn't place the car or put his finger on why it was making the hair on the back of his neck stand up. And then suddenly it clicked. It was the same truck he'd seen driving slowly by his house last week when he was on the lawn with Noah. He recognized the dented bumper. Yikes. A brown and white ball of movement barreled down the driveway and jumped up on Ben's legs. It was Scout. Finn just took Karis's sock and she can't focus.
But he gave
Come
it
here,
to
Finn.
her. Gave it to her, Mom.
Come.
Give it here.
Finn.
Finn.
No, there you go. She got it. A brown and white ball of movement barreled down the driveway and jumped out on Ben's legs, and it was Scout. The puppy barked and wagged his tail so hard it almost spun his tiny body in circles. Ben was flooded with relief. He leaned over to pick up the puppy, and Scout wiggled in his arms and licked his face. "Oh, I'm happy to see you, Scout. You scared the dickens out of me." Ben looked down at Hero. "Nice work, Hero." Hero just panted in response. He didn't need thanks. He'd done exactly what he was trained to do. At the sound of a door slamming shut, Ben looked up at the house. A tall, thin man was making his way down the driveway. Every muscle in Hero's body tensed at his protective instincts. Every muscle in Hero's body tensed as his protective instincts kicked in. Scout trembled in Ben's arms and burrowed himself into Ben's sweatshirt. As the man got closer, Ben realized he'd seen him before. It was the same guy he'd talked to at the car lot, the one who had complimented his dogs. The man stopped a few feet away.
Finn.
"I know you, kid," the man said. Ben nodded but didn't respond. The man looked Hero up and down, then locked his gaze on the puppy. "Scout, right?" His tone was different today. He didn't sound as friendly as he had before. "What?"
Finn gets kind of vicious when he's on there.
Okay. Kari, come on up here on the
Kari,
couch.
come here, Kari.
Come on.
Come on, baby. Come on.
Can you sit up here with Abby? That's a
girl.
good girl. "Yay, Scout," Ben said. This guy gave him the creeps. Thanks, sir. We just came to get the puppy. We'll get off your property now." The man let out a hoarse laugh.
Karis. No.
"Sit down, Kari." "I'm no sir. You can call me Mitch." The man's mouth moved into something resembling a smile. "What's the rush?" the man asked. Ben didn't like the look in Mitch's eye. It was cold, like his mouth and his eyes were feeling two totally different things.
Here, sit down.
"You ever think of fighting these dogs?" Oh, gosh. You hear what he just asked him?
Yeah.
Finn, come on.
"You ever think of fighting these dogs?" Mitch asked, the fake smile still on his face. "Fighting them? What do you mean?" Ben stopped mid-sentence. "Dog fighting." Ben shuddered. "No, sir. No way. Hero is a police dog and Scout here is just a puppy." The man nodded but said nothing. His eyes flashed up to Ben's face.
Kari, sit down.
Ben held his gaze for as long as he could, finally looking away. "We're going to go," Ben said firmly. "Hero, come." You hear the dog, Karis?
Yeah.
Sit still and listen about the dog. What's he going to do? Let's hear. Hero hopped up and stood by Ben's side as he got on his bike. Without a word, Mitch turned and headed back into his house, slamming the screen door behind him. Ben exhaled and hustled the dogs away from the house as fast as he could. As he biked home, Ben's mind raced, trying to process the dog chase and the weird dude at the house, Mitch. Everything about that guy had made Ben feel uneasy. The things he said, the way he looked at Hero and Scout,
Granny,
and the way he
Granny,
acted like
Granny.
Ben hardly even existed.
Granny,
What?
the doggy go home.
Is the doggy going to go home with Ben?
Yeah.
Let's see. Listen. By the time he pedaled up his driveway, Ben was exhausted, and he could see that Hero and Scout were wiped out from the long day, too. They were so tired. Yeah. Ben gave them extra water and food and put Scout in his crate. making sure the latch was secure. Hero stayed downstairs, curled up on the floor next to Scout's crate. The two dogs, one big and one little, pressed against each other, separated only by the thin metal of the crate. Oh, that's cute, isn't it?
Mhm.
Just the sight of his dogs flooded Ben with a deep sense of appreciation and love. Hero had really come through for them that day, tracking Scout so far away, and Scout had seemed so relieved when they finally found him. Why did Scout run all the way down to that house? I think that guy was his owner.
What on earth?
Remember Scout is a lost puppy?
Hmm.
I think that guy used to own that dog.
Mhm.
Scout was already sound asleep. Hero looked around the room, inspecting it one last time before going to sleep. He spotted Ben watching him. "Good night, buddy," Ben said from the stairs. Hero exhaled sharply through his nose, almost like a sigh, and then he shut his eyes.
Well, that's a short chapter.
Yeah, it was. What question do you have after reading that chapter?
I have. Who was that man? Why did Scout run to him? I think.
Yeah, I do too, Abby. Seemed like Scout ran there.
Mhm.
And why would he do that?
Maybe because a call or a whistle by that guy.
Oh, what do you think, Cal? What question do
Well,
you have?
the question I have is that the guy was unashamed of talking about dogs fighting each other. That's illegal. And the fact that he would say that is amazing to me.
Yeah, like why did he think he could
Yeah.
say that and not get in
Yeah.
trouble?
Yeah.
And my question that's been from the beginning of the book, on the back here it says Scout comes up missing. As Hero and Ben head out to find him, they're led down a dangerous and unexpected path. Do you think that's when he came up missing, or do you think he's going to come up missing again?
Okay.
I think he's going to come up missing again
I do
because
too, because we're
because
halfway.
he went to that house. So that's where he thinks home is for some reason.
Oh,
That's what I think.
so why did he go
Do
there?
it.
Was that his home?
Again.
Well, even though he's afraid, it's still where it's the only place he knows.
So
It
you,
really is.
yeah, so you kids at home, reading this by yourselves or with your parents, be sure you're thinking about questions in the story and making connections and drawing that movie of your
Bye
mind.
bye.
Bye-bye, kids.
Bye.
Bye. Bye bye.